welcome to the Lighthouse. I'm, as always, very happy to be here with you today. And peace to all who enter here, to all who are gathering for this integrative practice meditation session that we have. So we are in a most remarkable historic time, unlike any other time. You know, if you think about the entry into 2020, we were all setting our goals and our resolutions and casting the nets of our vision, and no one in our wildest dreams, in our furthest imaginings, could have called in what all has already happened as we near the halfway point of the year. So many things have been canceled, but one fact is that 2020 has not been canceled, cannot be canceled, and will not be canceled. And it is potentially the most important year of all of history, certainly the most important year in our experiential history. We are entering an evolutional epoch. We are in the birth canal. We are in the gauntlet. And so anytime you are either being birthed or being the one who is doing the birthing, both sides of the line are arduous events that require an immense amount of endurance. And so the meditations that we're going to explore this morning are going to help us cultivate a caliber of endurance so that we can stay sturdy and upright, so that we have command of our sensory system, so that we have equilibrium in our parasympathetic nervous system, and that we can be operating from that point. So right now, it's my views and the views of many, many others, and hopefully the views of all awakening people, that we are creating new patterns. We are designing a new destiny. And not only are we being builders and creators of a new destiny design, but we need to build it, and then we need to broadcast it. And so that's really what happens when we learn how to become revolving still points through the technologies that are the meditations. We learn how to become patient broadcasters, to emit a different pattern, to emit a different frequency that's actually going to be part of the solution, you know. And so part of this burning transformational time is that there is undeniably an immense amount of destructive energy that is afoot everywhere. We're feeling it, we're seeing it, we're watching it in the news broadcasts. But because of the law of equal energy, we know that if there is an immense amount of destructive energy afoot, that there is simultaneously an immense amount of constructive energy that is availing itself upon us for us to utilize and to elevate and to activate. So I really want to also hold space for that in our session today as well. In the East, and particularly in the yogic traditions, which I have emerged from as a lifelong student of these lifeways, there's a beautiful word, one of many, many, many beautiful words, and this is the word yatra. So yatra, I'm just going to turn this down a wee. The word yatra means pilgrimage. So most of us are not traveling. A lot of people that I've been having conversations with, and myself included, have had to cancel or postpone or reschedule major yatras that they had calendared on their personal rosters, on their familial rosters. So being a person on a pilgrimage is different from being a person who is just going on vacation. It's very different. So when we go on a yatra, when we go on a pilgrimage, we are going to a special site, a power place on the planet, where we can awaken some part of our being, and we can activate some part of our being because of the potency that exists in the coordinates of that place and what it does to the coordinates of our being. So every time we practice integrative practices or meditation of any kind, or yoga or qigong, you name it, right? Anytime we practice, That too, friends, is also a yatra. When you turn the journey inward and you begin to explore and investigate and inquire with brand new, fresh eyes, 10,000 of them, you begin to realize that there are countless coordinates inside of the adventure terrain of your own body that are just awaiting your discovery so that they can activate and awaken and even enlighten aspects of you so that you can turn around to your life, to your spheres of influence, and broadcast a more clear design for the destiny of the collective field, for your individuated destiny, and for this most remarkable shift that we are going through. So the last thing that I want to say before we get into this first meditation is that part of this transformation that is the shift into this evolutional epoch is that we are releasing so many of the outmoded, outgrown beliefs and habit patterns and opinions that can no longer go with us as we ripen into the way forward. This is no longer a time for blaming or shaming or coulding or shoulding. We absolutely have to be accountable and responsible individual expressions of the myriad who are toggling into a more expanded experience and expression of reality, a more inclusive, a more equitable, a more one that is defined by greater solidarity, the one that emphasizes liberation, one that understands interdependency, right? Like this is how, by always toggling into that angle and having that lens open, that allows us to have every action and attitude be actively participating in this social change ecosystem that is asking to bloom inside of each and every one of us. So part of making this massive shift is relaxing our resistance. So early on in my studies as a student, and I consider myself to be a lifelong student. I will be learning until hopefully hours before I pass through. But an early teacher that I learned from, she said that one of the greatest ways of relaxing resistance, which is a huge requirement for change, is to relax resistance, is to refuse to hold anything against anyone for any reason ever. To refuse to hold anything against anyone for any reason ever. And in doing that, you give yourself back an immense amount of energy. You create a much more spacious field into which you may relax and receive and project from. So I want you to check that out as you're practicing today. What does it mean for me to say right now, to stare every form of my personal conditioning square in the eye, and to say, I refuse to hold anything against anyone for any reason ever, so that I can be more congruent with this type of species that is coming through the evolving epoch that we're in. So let me turn on a song for us. I want to do Fists of Anger, because a lot of us are experiencing a freeze frame of trauma in our cellular memory. We're experiencing a freeze framing of trauma, and we're experiencing a lot of fear and a lot of just like overwhelm around how to metabolize what's going on, and then to actually create impact and to churn it into some kind of contribution. So it's my experience as a practitioner that you have to meet that energy with a similar energy. Okay, so the energy of intensity that we're all going through right now is very well met with the Fists of Anger. So you're going to use your thumbs and pull down the base segment of your pinky finger, and then wrap your index, middle, and ring finger around so you've got these fists. You're going to do breath of fire with the mouth closed. And every time you exhale, one of the arms will be flying back. So I'm going to do a demo, and then I'd love for you to join in with me, okay? So start, as always, with a huge in-breath. Keep this going, looking at the tip of the nose. Using the practice to become more intimate with your mission, the emergent mission. Keep it going, keep up, hold, elevate, and enhance the new patterns that you're feeling arising inside of you so you can broadcast those constellations in a constructive way. A few more, just a few more. Good, and then bring the practice to a close. So the fists of anger, of course, moves a lot of energy. Hopefully you're really feeling that. It clears out the channels of any sort of like sticky, viscous energy that loves to find its way into the subtle dimensions of our being and to create roadblocks, to create obstacles. So it clears the channels, and it not only that, it flips the switch and it changes the channel so that we are, again, designing a new pattern, building the new pattern, broadcasting the new pattern, but it's a more radiant pattern. A pattern that is a reflection of possibility, a reflection of compassionate new iterations of community, and so forth. So this next practice is conquering disabilities. Have you had the thought in these past few weeks, like, gosh, you know, what can I do that's going to make a difference, that's going to help? You know, again, to reference one of my, a different teacher, a different early teacher, Yoga Rupa, I remember him talking about how, like, as practitioners, as a part of being an awakened species, that we have to remember that our outlook needs to include a perception that life is like a building that is on fire, and that we have to have a swiftness in terms of our responses sometimes. The building is on fire, like what are we gonna do? So let's do this next practice. This is conquering disabilities. Sometimes in the original teachings it's called conquering imagined disabilities, but for today we're just going to remove the word imagined because we know what our disabilities currently happen to be. We're feeling them and we're witnessing them at large. So let me give you the practice. You're going to seal the hands together like so, and you're going to push and push and push while oscillating on the axis of your spine, while looking at the tip of the nose, and you'll make a circle shape with the mouth. And you're going to be doing breath of fire through an open mouth. So when I do this practice, the first couple of times I really feel it originating and then emerging from the mouth and from the throat. I want you to explore what it means to drop the sensational awareness deep down into the belly, deep down into the pelvic floor, and pull it up from there so that it's really got a very cleaning, excavating quality. This practice is about cleaning the fort so that we can hear each other and so that we can respect each other, even when we are in the midst of most remarkable diversity, that we can hear and that we can respect. This is what I was referring to, in last week's teachings when I was talking about mental hygiene. mental hygiene, like we've got to do it on the ordinary. We've got to get in there and clean up all of the false negatives and everything that is outmoded. So let's give this a try. Again, looking at the tip of the nose, oscillating. Be sure that you inhale enough so that you don't get lightheaded and topple off your meditation cushion. Okay? So create the flat palm. Keep this going. I'm just going to tune on some music for us. From the belly. Intimate with your emerging mission. Keep it going. Bring fire to fire and create equanimity. Create upeksha, equanimity. Meet the intensity, with a clear sensory system, the fully awakened and activated nervous system. A few more. Take a couple of deep rejuvenative breaths here. And tune into what's moved, what has gotten cleared out of the channels and what switching happened in terms of you changing the channel. So you can really be a superconductor of how the energy is moving up and down and to and through you as a broadcaster. So when I do these intense fire-based meditations, I feel an immense amount of clarity in my consciousness, and I think that that's really important to know how to very swiftly create that kind of clarity. We need to know, regarding the emerging mission that is asking to come through us, through the collective field, and that is asking to come through us as individuals. We need to know what kind of trance it takes. A lot of you have heard me talk about how everything in life is a trance. So what are you intending to transmit? And what sort of mind state is it going to take to mobilize that? What are you here to transmit? What are you a transmitter of? A transmission. What is your transmission? And right now, there is a lot of wrong kinds of trances. There are a lot of wrong kinds of trances that are going on in the collective that isn't necessarily helping us move forward in the most brilliant manner possible. So when we do these intensity meditations, it helps us really create lucidity, to have undeniable sobriety around what mind state it's going to take to mobilize the mission. And this is all about knowing what your mission is, right? As we move into and through this evolving epoch. So I want to do Sanmukhi Mudra. This is is such an old kriya. It's one of the Sat kriyas. It's one of the truth kriyas. So a kriya is a type of meditation that is a complete action that affects and integrates and elevates and broadcasts incredible refinement. So Sanmukhi Mudra is about being a gatekeeper. So part of broadcasting a new design, building and broadcasting a new design, is about knowing how to say no to things that are flowing in, and knowing how to say yes to things that need to flow out. And sometimes vice versa, right? Like being a project manager of the inflow and the outflow. So here we are working with the energetic gates of the head. We've just done a lot of oscillation on the axis of the spine, working with the subtle channels in the neck. So now we're going to be working with the head and the face. This particular meditation is a real rich experience with regard to what I was talking about at the beginning, the Yatra of Here. The pilgrimage of getting into the inside of your inside in a way that is as resistance-free as possible, in a way that isn't informed by some old grudge that maybe you've been nurturing. We all nurture grudges, but that's what we're minded towards when we're removing and dissolving and composting our resistance. So you may know this from previous work together, and it's possible that you may not. So just have a peek. I'm going to walk you through the whole structure, and then we'll do the thing together. Okay? So I'm going to place my hands like so. I've got my pinky finger underneath my bottom lip, ring finger above my top lip, middle finger at the bridge of the nose, index finger at the innermost corner of the eye, and thumbs are sealing the ears. So I've got my thumbs on the tab of the ears so that I can press it in and seal off. You're going to have sensory deprivation, maybe even the experience of sensory distortion for a moment, but that pretty quickly, it shakes out pretty quickly, and then, you know, the reward is this deep and submerged trance state of peacefulness. Okay, so you're going to make sound by moving, well, using the vocal cords, but moving the tongue inside of the space of the mouth, and really accessing as many diversified movements in the tongue as you can, so that you have like this broad spectrum of diverse sounds that you're making that are going to get into different alcoves and attics and basements and cracks and crevices in your psyche and in the cellular structure of your body. Okay? Listen, I'm going to demonstrate one round, and then we'll do 9 all together. So you may or may not have that kind of elongation in your sounding. It doesn't matter if it's short, it doesn't matter if it's wildly long. Just take 9 rounds. So we just were moving from the energy of fire, now we're really moving into the tattva of water. So our meditative practices are purifying and harmonizing the tattvas, the elements in the substantive self and in the field self. Okay, so let's try that. I'm going to call all of the articulations. So place the pinkies underneath the bottom lip, place the ring finger above the top lip, place the middle finger at the hard part of the bridge of the nose, place the index finger in the innermost point of the eye very gently, and place the thumbs on the little tab of the ears, press in, have the elbows up on the level of the shoulders, and then take 9 sounding rounds, please. hopefully you are complete with all 9 rounds of the Sanmukha Mudra. So while I offer you some closing thoughts, I would like for you to be activating full body mudra here as a closing practice. So you're going to reach the arms up, you're going to extend. We do this mudra a lot. This is for really coming into the full circularity, the omnidirectionality of your truthful, highest nature. So extending and elongating the index fingers. If there are men on the call, right thumb on top, and for the women on call, left thumb on top. Press the base of the palms together and extend the arms up alongside the head. And as you exhale, pull the navel in on the sat. And as you inhale, relax the navel out on the nam. So you're not sounding the mantra, you're vibrating the mantra on the inside of your being with some navel pulsating. Okay, this is a really wonderful, wonderful skill set to have, and a wonderful kriya for the digestive system, for the clarity of mind. We really very much always want the power of a fresh mind, and especially now, in this emerging epoch of evolution. So keep that going. Belly in on the out breath and relaxing the belly on the in breath. Keep that going while I talk to you. So I think that for myself, this is an idea that I have held in some of the yatras that I have actually gone on physically in the world. This mantra, this commitment to attempting to be a friend of the world wherever I go. And that's why refusing to hold anything against anyone for any reason ever can be very useful when we are learning new things, when we are in places within our own psyche, or in a different place in the world that's challenging us to be something other than what we are comfortable with being. To be a friend of the world in a way that is as free of resistance or distortion as possible. In a way that remembers and recognizes and honors that whatever happens to me is happening to everyone else, and whatever is happening to everyone else is also happening to me. To be a friend of the world. You know, another early teacher, he used to say, you have 2 choices. You can either get committed, or you can get committed. And I love that. We have to be committed, we have to be accountable, we have to be clear transmitters of the myriad. Each of us, every human being out there walking around, has 60,000 thoughts a day. And each of those thoughts has a vibrational frequency. And the one thing that we have sovereign governance over at all times is the frequency that we choose to patiently transmit, that we are projecting as our response to being alive in this way and in this time. So each of those 60,000 thoughts that you have on the daily, that thought goes on to become a feeling, which goes on to become an emotion, which then goes on to become a desire. And so we want that thought, feeling, emotion, desire cascade to help us design patterns for a destiny that is congruent with our highest character, right? Think about, as we prepare to go our various separate ways, think about, the top 5 people that you are spending the most time being in contact with right now, and how those 5 people are informing you hugely. And because we're living in a really interesting era, those people may be people that you are spending time with in a kind of avatar context. They might be people that you are streaming into your living room. Who is having an impact on you, and how are they helping you refine your mission, your transmission? How are they helping you to clean up the fort? You know, and then in closing, think about how, like, when we wake up in the morning, each of us is given a certain amount of energetic funds to spend. And very oftentimes, because we are so habituated with nurturing our grudges, by the time we hit breakfast, we are in energetic debt because we've been financing a lot of old news with our chi. So hopefully some of these intensity meditations and the clarity of this very equanimous Satnam here in closing have helped you to create a greater clarity around, you know, the coming and the going, what you're financing, what you're building, and what you're broadcasting in this most remarkable and deeply important historic time that we're in as a people on this beautiful, beautiful planet. Bring your hands down if you haven't already. Place your hands cupped like so, with the palms of the hands facing the sky, right hand on top, and place those hands conjoined as they are in the center of your lap, and feel your whole being, your whole radiant body. Every frequency that you are emitting is a radiant frequency, free of resistance, full of clarity, sitting in gratitude as a friend of the world, as a friend of the world, a friend of the world. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you feel deeply calm and incredibly alive. And see you soon. Satnam. Namaste.